Hello, good morning and welcome to the Sunday Supplement. Coming up on today's show, Raheem Sterling, he's the star as the champions Manchester City. They wallop West Ham 5-0 in a game interrupted, dominated by a series of VAR calls. Jose's back, but will the action be on or off the pitch? Manchester United and Chelsea, they start their season at Old Trafford this afternoon. And what will life be like beyond Rafa? Steve Bruce takes charge of his first game at St James's Park. It's Newcastle against Arsenal this afternoon. Well, where would we be without these three? Martin Samuel is the chief sports writer for the Daily Mail. Morning, Martin. Good to see you.
Morning.
Alison Rudd, sports journalist and novelist as well, is with us. She's from The Times. Morning, Ali.
Morning.
And a very trim and, dare I say it, athletic Neil Custis.
Makeup artist did well.
Yes, did very well. Did very well. How was your summer? Good to see you.
Yes, it was all right. Yeah. A couple of holidays and then the exhausting tour with Man United, but it was good to be on the tour again.
Yeah. Had a little holiday haircut as well, I see.
That's right. Well, no, that was especially for this.
Yeah, especially for this. Ali, good summer?
No haircuts, as you can tell. And
But-
I broke my ankle.
But you broke your ankle. How did you do that?
I was not drunk.
Martin, good summer?
Yeah, lovely, yeah. We had a
No broken bones?
No broken bones. We had a lovely holiday down the Pacific West Coast. Absolutely fantastic.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoy it. Looking forward to the season. Everyone else is looking forward to the season, the action this afternoon. Don't forget to tweet the show at Sunday Sup. The best will appear on screen over the next 90 minutes. OK, let's look at the papers. We're going to start with this story. It's a step to VAR. That's the back page of the Mail on Sunday. That's after West Ham's 5-0 defeat at home to Manchester City yesterday. Martin was there and so was Alison. We'll get on to it in a moment. It's the passion killer. That's Pep's view on events yesterday. Pretty happy with the performance, or certainly the manner of the victory. Not necessarily some of City's play in the opening 20 minutes, but it's a good start for them. The best by VAR. That's the headline on the back page of the Mirror this morning. VAR VAR Voom, that's the Sunday People's take on events yesterday at the London Stadium. A bit more sober in the Observer. Match us if you can. Liverpool got off to a flying start on Friday night, 4-1 over Norwich, but Manchester City 5-0 yesterday. Some pretty serious stuff in the Sunday Telegraph this morning, down here at the foot of the front page of their sports section. Police arrest two men outside Mesut Ozil's home, Sam Dean, with this story in the Telegraph this morning. It's one of the reasons why Ozil and Sead Kolasinac will not be in the squad and not in the squad for Arsenal's game at Newcastle this afternoon. We'll talk about that story a little bit later in part 5. In part 3, this man, Harry Kane, 2 for him yesterday. It's that man of Kane. That's the front page of the goal section in The Sun this morning. Good win for Tottenham in the end because they were a goal down against newly promoted Villa. They went on to win the game 3-1. Big result, excellent result here for Graham Potter, 3-0 at Watford. The surprise, the shock really of the day. It's a big win, a very, very good win. We'll talk about Potter and life and his starts as the Brighton manager in part 3 of today's programme. But first, let's start, Martin, with West Ham, because yourself and Alison, you saw it. You saw the game in different areas of the stadium, which I think will fascinate people in itself, because you, I think, have a slightly different interpretation and view on events that unfolded in front of you in the stadium, because you didn't have the benefit of Alison, who was in the press box watching video replays. And
well, you can see the video replays, but you can't. Were you told why the in the press box? Were you told why the penalty was retaken?
We were sent an email by the Premier League.
At what time?
About 10 minutes afterwards.
Right. Okay. So I was a guest at a friend of mine who was in the director's box. Nobody in the director's box. When I left there at about half time of the 3 o'clock kickoff. So I'm a substantial time after the game. Nobody in that director's box, even then, is aware of why the penalty is retaken. And I totally get about the fans. But if you've invested hundreds of millions of pounds of your own money, you are entitled to know why your team has won or lost. Now, the last City goal, the retaken penalty, it's the 5th goal and a 5-0. So you're not going to win or lose on that. But that's not always going to be the case. So say that was a tight game. Say that was the only goal of the game. The directors of West Ham, directors of Manchester City, were all talking about how hard it is for the goalkeeper to keep still on the line, and whenever impulse is telling him to move, to do this. That was that was the absolute presumption. The first I knew that it was retaken because Declan Rice was one of, I counted 5 players that in quotes, was when I watched Match of the Day last night. And that was the first time, because I hadn't been checking, reading match reports or anything on my phone or whatever. So that was the first time I'm watching it, and it was done for it was encroachment. Oh, that's fundamentally not right. If you're in the stadium, you should really be the best informed person. I mean, it's always been a bit of a difficult thing that people watching at home on television often know more than. But this is a real fundamental part of the game. Mm-hmm. And nobody had a clue. Even the replay that they showed of the disallowed goal, the Raheem Sterling goal, in the stadium, I don't think that's that easy to make out. I don't think, the fans are looking at it. There's a little dotted line going down from his shoulder. It doesn't look as if it's particularly,
Did they show that on the screen, the dotted the lines?
I seem to remember they did.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I saw it on the
because everyone thought
big
it was
screen.
Jesus was offside, and that clearly wasn't
absolutely.
the case. Yeah.
I'm thinking I saw it on the big screen as opposed to on. There's a little television monitor or a few television monitors at the front of the box, and I thought I saw it on that, but I might be wrong.
Maybe when we're more used to it, the bafflement about why the penalty was retaken, there won't be any bafflement because it was exactly as they told us it would be. I went to, as lots of us did, to the briefing at Stockley Park where the Premier League explained this is how we're going to implement VAR and it's going to be better than you've seen before. And one of the things they stressed was how retaken penalties ruin the Women's World Cup. So there was not going to be any retaken penalties because the goalkeeper just edged off his line slightly, unless something weird happened and the referee sort of broke down sobbing because he got bad news over his monitor or something and missed everything. It wasn't going to be for that reason. So everyone, if anyone had been paying attention, and they will slowly seep into their psyche that is not going to happen. VAR is not going to interfere. If the referee and his officials are happy for the penalty to be taken, and they're going to have a bit of leeway with goalkeepers coming off their line, it's going to be about encroachment and it's going to be about encroaching players, what happens in the next phase. So it was logical. If I think in 10 months' time we'll sort of know.
You'll still be guessing.
We'll sort of know. Well, they're not going to retake it unless someone encroached and then was significant in the play.
But you'll still be guessing. There's still no reason. I'm yet to hear the reason why you cannot hear the VAR say West Ham number 41.
Like in cricket.
As in coach. So like in cricket, like in rugby.
Yeah.
So everyone knows what is going on.
So I think the point you made, Martin, about not only the clubs investing their hundreds of millions and are entitled to know the reasons why behind the decision, but also the supporters. If you paid, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever it is, £100 for your season ticket, and you're in the stadium, surely you are entitled to know the reasons why.
At West Ham. My lad Robert,
well, you're then you are entitled to know.
And you're the least informed person now. You're the least. That it used to be, and go back to the 50s, the 60s. The fella that came into the pub who'd seen the match was
the authority.
Was the authority. Everyone gathered around. They wanted, how did this one play? And he said, Stanley Matthews had a fantastic game. And now, you've spent your money, fortunes on this, and the cost of getting there and all, and you're going at the pub and you go, we didn't half play well today, and everyone goes, the first 2 goals were offside. And you go, were they?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, and that was never a penalty. Oh, no, it was. And so you're the least informed person now, you're the guy that's paid the money.
Yep.
But that's been the case for a number of years now with television. However, this just sort of accentuates how uninformed that you can't be trusted with this information for some reason. You can't be trusted to be told this is what the Raheem Sterling picture. If someone actually said Raheem Sterling is offside, it's his shoulder, the line is drawn from his shoulder because that's the first part of his body that he could legally play the ball, just go.
Ali did,
and then everyone knows, and I don't know why you can't do that.
Or you can put a message up on the screen a minute or two later.
So what are we afraid of? What are the Premier League afraid of by not doing just that?
I don't think
the technology's there. The electronic scoreboards are in every stadium. There's the ability to be able to
I think
show a replay or
change.
to be able to show a still.
I think it'll change. I think, as Ali said, we're getting used to it. Everyone will know why a penalty is.
Used to it.
Well, no, but it will change. So they'll think, they'll listen to fans what they're saying, and maybe, the idea I had there is, a minute or so after a decision's made, when everyone's going, what was all that about?
Yeah.
Something comes up on the board saying it. The play's still going on. You don't have to wait for it, but something comes up to explain it. But the thing that really got me yesterday was, while I was watching the City game, was all these people on Twitter. They weren't going on about how superb Man City was. All about this VAR. Every single decision was bang on.
Yeah,
was right. They got it all right.
Yeah,
and I also think that the delays weren't that big.
No,
I think
there's no problem with the delay.
referee Mike Dean did really well in that he let things go while he was listening. I think it was so difficult for the ref to be doing all this. And he let things go, and I don't think there was massive delays. There was massive amounts of extra time. There was only 1 minute in the first half and 5 in the second. So I think it. Nobody complains about it in cricket. Everyone thinks it's spot on, as we've seen in the first Ashes Test, because the umpires got every decision wrong.
Yeah.
Tennis is the same. You could lose a Grand Slam but we have the cause. So, and rugby's always been like that. And how many times in your career have you gone into a press conference where a manager's lost a game and it's been proved the goal was offside? We've got this technology. Why can't we use
Jonathan
it?
Woodgate was saying it yesterday. Why haven't we got it in the Championship? In the meantime, everyone's got it in the Premier League. This is a disaster.
But I mean, to say, they're saying Pep's saying, and it's taken the joy out of the game. I mean, he is an absolute perfectionist, this guy, on everything. I'm sure that most of the managers are absolutely want this because
Ali, can I just ask? Does it enhance the experience as a working journalist? Does the assistants enhance the experience working at a game? Are you left bewildered by it and befuddled, or are we just worried about whether we'll be able to get the 8:01 from Stratford International back into St Pancras because it's delayed us by another 10 minutes getting out of the
there was a
stadium?
lot of grumbling, how many minutes are going to be added on here, which is all right for a 12:30 kick-off. It won't be all right for an 8 o'clock kick-off.
Yeah, exactly.
In need of
particularly when you've got the Sunday supplement the next morning. It's like, come on, crack on. We need to get away.
I know Pep is a perfectionist, but I think part of that perfectionism is that you want football to be beautiful, and it is spoiled by fans not knowing whether they should celebrate or not.
But
This is the really big difference now.
But fans don't. A goal won't go in, and fans won't go, whoa, hang on, we can't celebrate.
But
Wait till the VAR.
They were doing it yesterday, but Raheem Sterling by the end,
Yeah.
I think his third goal, he barely celebrates because he's now.
And the fans didn't either.
Yeah.
It was definitely muted.
It was, yeah. Without a shadow of a doubt. And the Manchester City people afterwards were saying, we'd rather have had the joy of the third goal and no retake of the penalty. We'd rather, because that everything in sport is about that moment, isn't it? It's about the moment where you knock the wicket over or you hit the ball out the ground for a six or whatever.
Is there?
It's not the same. It's not got that. It
Explosion,
hasn't got that same explosion that a goal has because, you've got to take 20 wickets. You're not going to see a match with 20 goals.
So what do? You can't just get rid of VAR.
No, you can't. I mean, but I'm just talking about the problems it's causing. Gareth Southgate was there, and he said straight away, because what happened is it came out. The teams came out for the second half. Manchester City scored quite quickly. The second half at that stadium tends to start quite flat anyway because everyone disappears to the concourse and they're coming back. It's a big stadium. They're finding their seats, and so the atmosphere was very subdued. City score, that kills it stone dead. So there is now it's all going City's way. City score again, and this is game over. And then there's the VAR. And then West Ham get the break with the VAR because Raheem Sterling's shoulder's offside. And suddenly, from it being a completely flat atmosphere and all of the momentum being with City, suddenly the stadium, it was like West Ham had scored. And suddenly, and now West Ham are down the other end, and the keeper makes the only 2 saves he makes all game. If that goes in, now it's 2-1, and there's this massive momentum with West Ham. Gareth Southgate was sitting there and said, that's exactly what happened to us in the Nations League. We thought we'd scored with Jesse Lingard. We think we've won the match, And then suddenly the rug's pulled out from under their feet. Everyone's deflated on the English side. The whole momentum in the game then shifts to Holland, who thought they were knocked out, albeit against the run of play, but thought they were out. And now, and if you remember what happened after that, England couldn't get in the game after that.
But all I'd say to that, Mark, players will have to learn to
You
adapt
have
to those unique
Guardiola said
situations.
It, didn't he?
You'll have to adapt.
You'll have to adapt, but it is very difficult at the moment because for the crime of being offside by that much, the whole, Man City didn't really do too much wrong to have the whole momentum in the game suddenly shift on them.
Yeah.
They were offside by an inch.
Let's pick up on the point that Neil made, Ali, which is Man City fans talking about the decisions, but what about the performance yesterday? What did that say for the Premier League and for Manchester City and where they are?
Oh, it showed they're probably going to be maybe slightly better this season. That's definitely the feeling I got.
For you, was it jaw-droppingly good? What you witnessed yesterday, was it that impressive?
Second half, certainly. They took a while to get into gear. But, I did my marks out of 10 this morning for Monday's paper, and you're thinking, well, can I give everyone 8s and 9s? Oh, this is ridiculous. But they were all very good. I was particularly impressed that Rodri looked like he has an aura already. And Vincent Kompany leaving the club is a bit of a blow, because even if he didn't play in a game, you knew he was there in the dressing room offering that sort of I've been there, I've done it calmness. Rodri has that sort of that about him, because he was sort of his body language, he was pointing, he was intercepting. People like that, they make time in a sort of bubble, and he sort of looked like he had time to pick out his passing. Really impressive Premier League debut from him. Sterling looks like he's still on that trajectory where he's going to be a better player for this year, next year, perhaps. And that's got to scare most defences in the Premier League. So once they were clicking in the second half, it was jaw-droppingly impressive, definitely. No signs at all that they're going to be a different team or with different priorities. They look good.
I mean, you normally see...
Are you going to be OK with this if City win every game this season, win 38 games, 5-0, you're going to be...
They probably will.
You're not going to combust, are you?
No, not at all. I mean, I just...
Because we want you back on the programme from time to time. So
honestly, I was thrilled watching it yesterday. I thought they were absolutely magnificent. You normally see a performance like that maybe October, November or something like that. When managers say we'll get into our stride and after the international break and we'll be up and running. But that, for a first day performance, just phenomenal. And what was interesting is that now Sané's injured, Mahrez is going to step forward, and I thought he played really well yesterday. Yeah. And I think he's thought, right, this is my opportunity now. Because Kompany's gone, I think Stones is going to play regularly, and I think he'll take on that mantle. He's superb passing the ball out from the back. And as you say, Sterling, I mean, we're just walking through teams. I mean, this is like... they're going to take it to another level. I mean,
and they didn't think they played well.
I think I need to go and have a little lie down, Neil.
And they didn't think they played well. That's the other thing.
When has he ever talked about Man City? It's always references Sparky, Mancini. No, I've had to bring them up today. You're all right.
You can't.
Have a couple of minutes. Let Martin.
But they didn't think they played well. That's the most worrying thing about it. They didn't think they played well at half-time. The West Ham guys thought they were in with a shot. They think, well, they're not. If we can get a goal,
it's doable, as David Gold tweeted.
Yeah, exactly. and that's the worrying thing. That was. I don't think that was Man City anywhere near their full capacity yet. And they've been, they've got a fantastic record against West Ham. If I would have thought if Man City could choose to play any fixture away from home on the first day of the season, it would be West Ham.
They score at a higher rate against West Ham away than they do at home.
Yeah, they've scored, I think, someone said to me yesterday, 20% of the goals that have so far been scored at the London Stadium have been scored by Manchester City. So, I mean, that sounds a little bit far-fetched, but it might be right. Certainly it's 22-1 on aggregate the last 5 games. That fixture is 22-1 to Manchester City.
But it's the way they can just suddenly go, tootle along in second gear, then just suddenly rev it up. And
the Carl Walker over in the first goal.
Enough. Enough, please. Actually, we're going to get on to Neil's favourite subject next, Jose Mourinho.
That's back.
The conversations people have during the break here, Dogs. We got into dogs. Neil's got 2.
Yeah, little Maltipoo and a Cockapoo, Roxy and Luna.
Roxy
Very
and Luna.
sweet.
Ali hasn't got dogs because she hasn't got time to walk them. Martin has had dogs.
And hasn't got dogs.
Same here. Tweet us your favourite, I don't know, dog story at Sunday Sup.
If they lose the show with pictures of dogs, that's what it needs.
Yeah. Let's talk Manchester United Chelsea this afternoon. Of course, we'll be there. Jose Mourinho is making his comeback.
You've got a lot of confidence in Virgin Wow, haven't you? Really?
Yeah. Well, I saw last.
We'll be there, possibly.
No, Neil sort of confidently predicted.
It took 3 hours to get down when it should take 2, so I'm sure we'll make it.
We did
somehow.
look up the train times just before we came on air, didn't we? And we should be okay.
We're okay. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Anyway, let's talk Man United Chelsea. Mourinho is back. He's back in the studio for Sky. He'll be analysing that game alongside Graham Souness, Gary Neville, and Jamie Carragher this afternoon. Fireworks on or off the pitch, or both?
Well, I think whatever happens on the pitch, I think the back page headlines will be what Jose says off it. I do think there's still...
Will he be at liberty to talk about Manchester United, do you think?
Well, he's always said that, I don't talk about clubs that I've already left, and, you wouldn't hammer them when he'd gone. I think the message has got out somehow, but you wouldn't hammer them personally when he'd gone. I mean, he can't not go on Sky for this match and talk about Manchester United, and talk about his time
of course,
there. So he has to. It's a brilliant coup by Sky to get him. I think actually in the studio, a lot's been made of the pundits that he used to have a dig at. It's all part of the game. It's all part of the drama. It's all part of it. I mean, that bloke can charm people as well, So I don't see any animosity.
That's for sure.
Well, yeah, I don't see any animosity going on there. But certainly when he talks about Manchester United, it'll be very interesting because he had done a great job for 2 seasons and felt let down in the transfer market the following summer, and it started to crumble from then. And Man United lost one of the best managers in the world, and people say that he was beyond his time and lost it and all this sort of thing. I think they might look back in a few years' time and think we had Jose Mourinho here.
How awkward will it be if for Mourinho talking about, for example, Paul Pogba, somebody that we know those two rubbed each other up the wrong way.
Yeah, I think.
How awkward will it be for Mourinho to talk about Paul Pogba and how far can he go?
He has a way of getting it. He always has a way of getting a message across without quite stepping over the line. So he'll say it without really saying it, sort of thing. He has every right to have a go at Paul Pogba because Paul Pogba undermined him, and I think was probably the main reason he left in the end, because he felt he wasn't being supported from above in the battles he was having with Pogba. He was very much left to it, rather than, I don't know, Pogba called in by Ed Woodward, a higher power or something like that, but they just left him to it. And he felt very alone in that battle, and he felt it was a sort of a one-way thing, and that he was being made to look the bad guy. So he has every reason to have a dig at Pogba today if he wants to, and I wouldn't deny him that privilege, because as I say, he was trying to make Paul Pogba a better player. Problem was Pogba wasn't in as good a team as he'd left, and was getting frustrated. He was making runs that people weren't picking up. He was trying to make passes when people weren't there. At Juventus, it all clicked. But he was asked to be the big man in this team and take it forward, whereas he was just part of a great team at Juventus, and he didn't take that mantle on. And now suddenly he says he wants to leave. I mean, it's poor. I mean, I spoke to Ryan Giggs in the week and said, how would you handle the Paul Pogba situation? He said, I'd kick him. He said, I'd kick him in training. He says, if anyone, Cristiano Ronaldo used to go on dribbles and stuff like that, Scholes, you would kick him. He said, doesn't happen nowadays. Mm-hmm. So he's, there used to be a sort of mentality within the dressing room where it was sort of self-police. What do you mean you want to leave? Could you imagine Roy Keane was sat next to him and he's just said the day before, I want a new challenge. See how that one plays out.
Ali, sorry, you were about to jump in.
Yeah, no, I think I'd be a little bit surprised if Mourinho takes today as the opportunity to lay into Pogba, actually, because when for Solskjaer's first game, Pogba gave a little speech to the media afterwards, and he said Mourinho was a beautiful human being and he had been a privilege to work with him, and he didn't want to slag him off. And I think, yes, you all know what's happening under the surface, but I think that's classy. And why would Mourinho want to look like the least classy of the pair? I think he'll talk about his football. I don't think he'll go into great detail about how he was difficult to manage, because I think that would make Mourinho look the fool,
But
not Pogba.
Sanchez said the same thing, and Sanchez was an absolute disgrace under Mourinho, and also posted a video of some song from Gladiator about being free on the day that on the day after Mourinho was sacked. So I'm not sure that was. Is it classy to cause problems for a manager and then just come out and cover yourself by saying, "Oh, he was wonderful," as if to say, "Oh, it's nothing to do with me"?
Well, it's classier than saying I'm glad he's gone and I'm going to.
Well, I would actually admire him more if he
celebrate.
said that, because that's how he would have felt.
But given that's the way I know, I think Mourinho. I think you must know he'd come out looking like.
We've now got Ollie Solskjaer in, right? Who's not a confrontational person, although he has a hard side to him. And in the summer, where he's trying to build Manchester United ahead of the season, he has come out and said, "I want a new challenge," and his agent has come out and said, you know, Man United, no, he wants to go, he needs to go, he needs to get rid of Joe, and all that. I mean, I don't think that's classy. I think classy is the last thing he is. He's had a great opportunity at Manchester United to be part of a great new era with him at the fore of it, and he's not taken it.
That would be fair comment by Mourinho, but I just don't think Mourinho is going to start using the platform today to say it went wrong for him at Manchester United because of Paul Pogba. That would make him look like he did lack class.
Will Mourinho be there today and look at his two former teams and be at Old Trafford and think that he should still be there, that he will have regrets about the way things worked out last December, that this is such a huge opportunity at Manchester United to make them great again? Will it be a difficult afternoon for him personally, or do you think that he'll have moved on 9 months now beyond his dismissal?
I can't see that any manager who left Manchester United in the sort of circumstances that Jose Mourinho left, and who didn't win the league at Manchester United, which would obviously have been his aim when he went there. He would have been thinking of winning the league. You've got to have regrets. You've got to have regrets about the way it panned out. Whether they're regrets about anything that you did, or it's just regrets about the situation generally. A regret that you couldn't, that Paul Pogba wasn't the individual that you maybe thought he was. Regrets about certain players you bought who didn't deliver as you hoped they would. So yeah, of course. I mean, I don't think Jose Mourinho would have envisaged on the opening day of the football season him being in a television studio. I would think that he would have thought he would be in employment by now. So that will be, because he's a football man. All the world over, he's a football man. And when he returned to Chelsea, he spoke about being on holiday over Christmas, and he was in Brazil, and all he kept thinking is, well, I should be playing football, we should be playing football. Now it's December the 26th, we should be playing football. And he was in love with all of the things that we think are terrible, replays and the fact we've got 2 cup competitions. And I can remember saying to him, but this is all the stuff that we think should change if English football. He said, I didn't say it was any good for English football. He said, I just said I liked it.
Yeah.
And Christmas, New Year's schedule, he loved that as well.
He loved that.
Yeah.
He loved the fact you play FA Cup replays. He loved the fact there were 2 cup competitions, domestic cup competitions. So that is not a guy who's living the dream if he sat in a studio next to Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher.
So as close as he can get
to the other fellas. He doesn't want to be there. He wants to be where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is, or where Frank Lampard is.
It's a good advert for him, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's not like he ever went away anyway. It's as close as he's going to get to the action though this afternoon. We'll be in the studio. Let's talk Manchester United though and their pre-season preparations. Is Solskjaer on the way to getting things the way that Manchester United supporters expect, that they want, and that they demand? I
mean, I was very surprised on the pre-season tour at how much he had turned round the mood. He Pogba, to be fair, got down and worked and played well in pre-season. Lukaku, he just kept separate from the rest of the group. Supposedly had an ankle injury. He put a great amount of positivity back into that squad. And pre-season games can often be dull, or we're just getting our fitness right. The results don't matter. But they were very, very good in pre-season. There was an intensity about them. There's more speed in the team. I think they're going to be fitter to play the way he wants to play, which is a quick, high-pressing game. There's been a lot of complaints about the what was done in the transfer window. I mean, their outlay was the 4th biggest in Europe, but it was offset then because Lukaku went and everyone looked at the net spend. I mean, the 3 signings they've made, I think, will be great. That Daniel James, brilliant. I think he'll be a real star. Wan-Bissake's stats in pre-season were fantastic. And Maguire, someone who the club has needed. They haven't had someone really since Rio who can play like him and bring the ball out and make an influence higher up the pitch and get things moving. What they didn't do was get another striker in, and I think this is where they might fall down, because they're now going to rely on, I think, Anthony Martial as the number 9, with Rashford wide. They might play them as a 2 occasionally, but Anthony Martial has not done it on a regular basis, and they're pinning a lot of hopes on him to get the goals alongside Rashford. I mean, the 2 of them together couldn't even get near Lukaku's goals stats, and Lukaku had an awful second season. So that is the only my concern is where all the goals are going to come from. And with Martial as number 9, will he thrive on it? Will he grab it? Will he take the opportunity? Maybe he will. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if he won 3-0 today. I wouldn't be surprised if they lost 1-0. It's very unknown, because pre-season to the Premier League is a massive difference. But in the game against Tottenham, which was very intense in Shanghai, they really did. They were really at it, and James particularly. So I think there'll be a lot of excitement about seeing him there today. And Solskjaer's done well just to get rid of Lukaku, because they can't get rid of Sanchez because he's on too much money. But they've got rid of Lukaku.
Just on that Sanchez point, Neil, how difficult will it be to continue with Sanchez around the first team squad at Manchester United?
Well, as far as I know, Solskjaer just from day 1 didn't fancy him, didn't want him around.
Then that's fine, but he's still around. They can't get
well,
rid.
what can they do? I mean, they can get him to train with the under-23s, but then there'll be a problem then with the agent, his contract and stuff like that. Can they do that? It's not the player himself. The player himself can actually say to him, right, I'm going to knuckle down, I'm going to prove him wrong, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I'm still a talented player, but there's been no evidence of him doing that or wanting to do that. And I think they really need, and he's been mumbling, grumbling behind the scenes virtually since day 1.
Yeah.
So they need him out. But the problem, I mean, a lot of people have also been moaning, saying, you've got 29 in the squad, why couldn't we get rid of them? The reason they couldn't get rid of them is because the money they're on. Yeah. The contracts that have been given out at Manchester United are enormous. And, I always remember Sir Alex Ferguson used to say, don't go chasing the money if you're at Man United. It'll find you. If you're at Man United and you do well, the money will find you. You don't have to go chasing it. But the money that some of the players have been asking for, demanding, and putting Sanchez on £500,000 a week, 505, has caused so many problems. It's lost Herrera. It means De Gea negotiations are string out because they're looking at what Sanchez has done for the club and saying, well, hang on, look what he's on.
He gets £500,000 a week for doing nothing.
It should never come down at a club like Man United. It never used to come down to money, all right? I mean, occasionally, I think Roy Keane strung one out and Rio strung one out, but I was with the class of 92 this week, and they were all talking about it, and they were talking about how it was always just about the football. It really was always just about the football. And
did you play in that five-a-side game on the top of the
No, God, I was boiling. No.
I'd like to see you with your little five-a-side.
I was afraid Gary Neville might take me out as well, so I didn't bother.
Yeah, Gary Neville, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes.
No, they're all in good form.
Let's talk about players who do want to play, which is David Luiz, and the way that Frank Lampard handled that situation this week, because, of course, he made the decision, and I think this is the biggest decision so far as in his short Chelsea career, to sell such an influential player in that dressing room to a rival, traditionally a rival club. But Frank made that call this week. Is it the right one?
It was the right one because David Luiz and his agent decided it was time for him to go. I think if Frank thought that David Luiz was still 100% committed to Chelsea, but was being tempted and was in two minds, I think Frank would have fought for him to stay. He's a really important personality at the club, not just the fact that he's a interesting and excellent defender. But the minute it became a point of friction, nowhere near like Sanchez, but a slight point of friction, I think Frank Lampard decided, I'm not going to be able to give David Luiz the reassurances he needs about the defence being built around him. My emphasis is on youth. It's probably best that he does go, because he clearly has an inkling, a hankering to go. So go, and he was very. This is the sort of the way Frank Lampard's setting himself up as a manager. He was at great pains to tell the press that I haven't pushed him out. We get on really well. There's been no row. This is two grown men having a chat and coming to the best decision for both parties. So there's no sort of nasty smell around it at all. It's an interesting transfer.
It was diplomatic, Frank, because he said we had a very robust conversation. It was a short conversation, a robust conversation. It was two strong men, two influential figures, two powerful figures. Pretty much, that's. But
you didn't come away thinking, oh, he's hiding some nasty little row here. You sort of feel that's fine.
It felt like David Luiz said, "I'm 32 years old. I should be playing regular. I should be the first choice central defender." And Frank Lampard said, "Don't think so, mate. Sorry,
I can't do that.
I work slightly differently to the way things have run here in the past. You're not first choice. If you want to be first choice, stay, work for it. It's up to you. Stay or go.
You want to go, go." Frank. He's a hard man. He's good. He's good, but he's not cuddly. He's a hard guy, and he'll make tough decisions. He's very much his own man.
But when we think about the art of management, Martin, though, is that you might say this is an influential figure in that Chelsea dressing room, has been a successful figure in that Chelsea dressing room, has won so much with them, is the art of a modern manager to find a way to manipulate David Luiz so that he believes he's part of the gang, he's important. They can't sign players, they couldn't sign a replacement. And Frank said, actually, no, go.
I think
it's ruthless.
It's ruthless, and it's also you're making that evaluation. This guy is high maintenance. This guy is going to be very high maintenance. If he stays at the club, very high maintenance. Is he worth it? Because the only high maintenance pests aren't worth it. Ronaldo can be as high maintenance as he likes because he goes everywhere he goes. He changes the dynamic. If Lionel Messi needs fuss, great, Lionel Messi. But other people, high maintenance pests, that you've got to be really, really good. And if he's looking at it thinking, well, he's not actually my first choice. This is going to take up too much of my time, keeping this guy happy. No, let it be someone else's problem.
Yeah,
it's a very hard-nosed decision, and that's exactly what Frank is. People don't realise Frank's a hard guy.
Tough as nails, yeah. Hard-working guy, hard-working manager as well. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about Liverpool's exhilarating performance on Friday night. They beat Norwich 4-1 at Anfield. More on them coming next. It's like those were the days on this table. We're just trying to remember the Norwich team from what year?
1993. 1993 was Bayern Munich.
We got there. We almost got there, didn't we?
Yeah.
Come on, let's go through it quickly.
I tell you what, they played some of the best football the Premier League had seen at that point. They were absolutely phenomenal. You used to go there a lot. I worked for the local paper there, and the pass and move football that they used to play. They scored one of the. If you look back on YouTube, they scored one of the greatest goals I've ever seen away at Leeds, which they moved all the way from the back, about 10 passes, Fox cross, Goss volley into the roof of the net. Absolutely sensational. But because it's Norwich, people will say, what's he talking about?
They were the first English team to win at Munich, weren't they? No one had ever won at Munich.
They were
people at home baffled why we're talking about
11 points
City.
clear. First Premier League season, they were 11 points clear in December.
Yeah.
9 or 11 points clear in December they were. First Premier League season.
Is that you were a cub reporter back then, is that?
I was early 20s, but I covered them for 3 or 4 seasons. But they were a wonderful team, and they were a wonderful group of people in the days where you got close to footballers and played golf with them and things.
The reason we're talking about Norwich is because they played Liverpool on Friday night. They lost 4-1. They wish they had some of those players from that 92-93 season, that side on Friday at Anfield. Let's just remind you who's with us this morning. You'll know that Neil's with us. Martin Samuel is also here, and so is Alison Rudd. Let's just remind you what's in the papers this morning. Sunday Mirror, City the best by VAR. We've already discussed this subject in part 1 of today's programme. VAR Voom, Raheem Sterling's hat-trick. Great start to the season for him, particularly after the Community Shield last weekend too. Passion killers is Pep talking about the spontaneity being lost at stadiums when goals go in, or do they go in? The goals pull out in the sun. It's that man, Kane, 2 goals for him yesterday in a Tottenham shirt. They won 3-1 against promoted Villa, Sunday Mirror's football pull-out, pay and display, more pay and display. Great start for Graham Potter and his Brighton side. Ali will talk about them and Potter very, very shortly. But let's have a quick chat about Liverpool and their performance on Friday night and that Norwich game. Was it more of the same from Liverpool? Did you sense that they'd improved, that they'd moved on, having had such a successful year last year, finishing second in the Premier League, okay, but of course European champions as well? Was there an intensity about them and an appetite to go and win the league, Martin? And of course we need to get into Alisson's injury too, but that's an aside.
What, Alisson's injury or what, the ankle? Or
yes, we did. We did two Alissons, of course.
It's very spooky.
Yeah, it is spooky.
Because I've done it when Alisson met Alisson.
Alison Becker.
Well, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
With all due respect to Ali.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know she's 6 weeks away from full fitness, but it could be the same for Alison Becker.
Yeah,
It's bound to be.
Sorry, what was the question again?
Were Liverpool any good, basically?
Yeah, they were. They were 4-0 up at half time, after which they decided, well...
You sound like the bloke in the pub here.
Yeah, why bother? The second half was sort of very much off the why bother. No, they were very good. They just swept Norwich off the park. I wouldn't have thought they could believe their luck that a team has come up to the Premier League, hasn't really spent any money of any great substance, and thought you could go to Anfield and play in a very, very open way. They're the European champions. I'm not saying you've got to have 11 men, behind the ball, but to be as open as Norwich were was fatal. And a team as good as Liverpool are, I think they did the same thing to West Ham, didn't they? In the first day of last season, I think they won 4.
That's right. Yeah.
And they just worked around them. They were very good. I thought, funnily enough, that this weekend, if you were pegging the teams, you'd go, well, Man City look like the best team in the league. It's in its own way quite depressing, because Man City look like the best team in the league, and Liverpool sort of look like the second best team in the league, and then Spurs look like the third best team in the league. So you're thinking, oh, that's not much fun, is it? But
after today, with Chelsea fourth,
we'll have to see today. But that's what it looked like. It looked like a fantastic statement until City went out the following day and then won 5-0.
Yeah,
and you thought, oh, here we go again, 4-1. And you're not top of the table.
The injury to Alisson, though, how's that going to affect the rhythm of the season?
I think it affected the rhythm of the game, actually.
Do you?
Yeah. I think there was a sense of, oh dear. He was so important to them last season, and I think Adrian's a really good signing, and he looked okay. But the whole point of how Liverpool have progressed under Klopp is that they've gone from being scintillating but having a flaky defence to suddenly looking like the defence with a great aura with Van Dijk and Alisson are part of that.
Alisson, he played all of last season, Champions League. He's then got to the Copa America. He only came back to training the previous Monday, and then he gets injured. I mean, is there, that's an awful lot of football, and then suddenly come back to training, and then he gets injured. I mean, it's just too much, isn't it?
But then you've got Riyad Mahrez, who said to Pep, "I only want 10 days off, boss, and I'm coming back."
Yeah, I know, but I'm not. But Riyad Mahrez started about 10 or 11 league games last season, so it's not quite the same. I mean, I saw one great tweet said about Alisson and Adrian, saying it sounds like a couple your mum met in Mallorca 10 years ago, but they still keep in touch with. What's the ring, Alisson and Adrian? But what did he play? 5 games, just cup games for West Ham last season.
Well, he got in, and everyone was going, oh, and then that was I think it was the season before, wasn't it? He got in. And then he managed to get himself out of the team again quite quickly. And then last year, he was the reserve team.
And then the goal that Norwich scored, he was at fault for, and Van Dijk was having a go at him. So as you said, he was such a big part of Liverpool last season that I think it's a big miss, and I'm not sure that the replacement is going to fill that hole or even half.
It'd be very difficult, certainly with the stature that Alisson...
no option now.
Exactly. No option. Next game for Liverpool, of course, in the Super Cup against Chelsea in midweek. Excuse me. Let's talk about one of the sides that changed their manager in the summer, which is Graham Potter. And of course, that's somebody that you've spoken to recently, Alison. That is a magnificent result for him, 3-0 at Watford in his first game in charge, first Premier League game for Brighton. I think it's fair to say that most people would have seen that as a surprise, but the Graham Potter that you've met, how did you find his constitution and his ideas on the game and the way he wants to play, what he wants his Brighton team to play?
Well, it's an astonishing story, and I hope it carries on, because apart from the year he had at Swansea, all he's got in the bank is 7 years in Sweden, taking a team that was only like 15 years old. I mean, they were nothing, Östersunds, taking them through the divisions and then to the world stage by knocking Galatasaray out, even beating Arsenal at the Emirates. And he's not apologetic about that's his managerial CV. The thing that surprised me most, I think, when I met him was that he said, "Oh, I'm not sure I'll be able to get Brighton to the levels I had at Östersund so quickly," i.e. the type of football he liked to play there. And when he was in Swedish football is based on 4-4-2, hoofing the ball, lots of strength, lots of pace, lots of height, lots of layoffs. It's sort of really quite basic. And Östersunds couldn't afford the players that come a premium in Sweden. So he took all the diminutive, tricksy little players who weren't getting in the more established teams, but liked playing football. So he reinvented football in Sweden, if you like, to be the football that we value more here, and made progress just by playing interesting formations. He'd always change his formation. I mean, he sort of giggled when I said, "Are you going to play through at the back today?" You wait and see, and he did. He likes to mix it up. He likes to play along the ground. He likes imagination, because that's all he had to work with for 7 years, was carving out a niche in a realm where he didn't have the money or was able to attract the sort of players that Swedish football is all about. And so for him to be able to transfer all that to the Premier League, to me it seemed really hard task, but he did it, and they looked comfortable on the ball, and they looked like they were enjoying themselves as well.
Yeah, no fear from Brighton yesterday. There's no doubt about that. Need to talk about a couple of other promoted sides, or a couple of promoted sides, which is one, Sheffield United. Very good point for them. They showed no fear yesterday.
No, not at all.
They got a point at Bournemouth.
Yeah. And also, I mean, Aston Villa, you know, we were talking about Norwich before and about how they played, right? I was actually really impressed with how they played. I was impressed with them. I know they got beat, they got, you know, turned over. Anyone can get turned over by Liverpool, but I was impressed with how they played. And they've lost 4-1. Aston Villa have taken the lead at Tottenham, then put everyone behind the ball, hardly crossed the halfway line, and lost 3-1. Now, if you're a promoted team and you're going to... I've seen this so many times at Old Trafford with Man United. If you're a promoted team and you're going to put everyone behind the ball, one thing you can be sure of is at some point they're going to score. They're going to score. So I think if Norwich stick to the way they're playing, particularly at home, they may not beat Man City. They won't. They won't beat Liverpool. They probably won't beat Chelsea. But they will beat other teams playing like that, because it is a really good style of football. And it was impressive last season, and he stuck to it. As you say, they haven't added, I think they spent less than £1 million, but they're going to have a go. And I'd rather watch that than a team say, hang on, let's see if we can cling on here.
Yeah, sure. OK, it'll be interesting to see how the promoted sides get on this season. Sheffield United drawing at Bournemouth, Norwich losing, of course, on Friday night against Liverpool. OK, next up, we're going to talk transfer deadline day, 1 or 2 moves. We'll also talk about Wilfried Zaha, still at Crystal Palace. More on him next. Cammy, we've sorted out the VAR debate already, haven't we? I think.
Yeah.
Did
But
we?
that never does anything, you know. Stuff will come back in the news and you think, well, I sorted that out in 2007. You know, what are people still talking about?
Let's talk about transfer deadline day. Notable moves. One notable move that didn't happen. Wilfried Zaha, Crystal Palace. Palace. Is it an awkward truce? Came on as a substitute yesterday at the Coliseum in Palace's 0-0 draw against Everton. Is it an awkward? Will it be uncomfortable these next few months for club, for manager, and for the player?
Well, I found it interesting that the money that is spread around football now, and clubs like Crystal Palace have, Everton have now, Leicester, you know, that they can actually say no.
Yeah, that's the great thing.
In the past, they would have to say, "Oh, Christ, yeah, well, we could do with that actually, you know, and we need a new training ground," and he'd go. Now they say, "Well, no, because we haven't got anybody else, and we'll struggle without you." So no. The thing I found odd though was, you know, I'm not advocating people being abused or booed or anything like that, was that the Crystal Palace fans sort of stood up and clapped him when he came on. I mean, I thought, this is a guy who's wanted to leave your club. I mean, you're a Crystal Palace fan. Would you have stood up and clapped when he came on?
Did you? Were you there?
No. Would I have
I mean, someone has said, literally want to leave your club. I'm putting in a transfer request and all that. And all right, I prefer.
Do you know what, Neil? I think it's
that than any abuse player
what I would
gets,
say,
but
it's the way you go about it. It's the way you handle it.
Yeah.
If you kick up, you hand the transfer request in, and you are perceived as one of their own, I think it becomes very difficult and very awkward to still have the same emotional bond with that player, whether that's Zaha or anyone else. You could talk about Van Hooijdonk years ago. I know he's not one of their own, but you could talk about that situation.
I mean,
I do think it becomes very difficult. But if you said to the guy, look, you're not leaving until minimum January, which is what's happened with Zaha. You've got to try to, and everyone knows he's the talismanic figure in the team. He's the guy who's going to turn matches and win matches. Do you want him on side or not? And I think Palace fans probably would look at that. I think we need Wilfried Zaha on board rather than.
There was
focused.
a significant moment when he came off the bench and he just shook Roy Hodgson's hand, and everyone in the stadium would have seen that. And to me, that said, OK, we've had a row. Don't worry, once I'm on the pitch, I'm going to give it everything. And he did play like the old
There's a very
Zaha.
different picture going around of Marco Silva and Wilfried Zaha, though, after that match yesterday. There's an embrace between those two, which speaks volumes.
Well, they might rekindle the offer.
It's not a
But
good idea,
what
is
he's saying is, by that handshake with Roy Hodgson, is, while I'm playing for Crystal Palace, don't worry, my head will be at it. And that's why you'd applaud him, because it doesn't serve any purpose at all for it to be animosity.
Had this been handled differently, would Zaha have got his? Could Zaha have handled it differently and left Crystal Palace this transfer window, or do you feel Palace were not selling him under any circumstances?
No, it could have been handled differently. He handed in his transfer request far too late. This should have all been sorted out months ago. It should have been proper planning. I think it seems it was all far too emotional, and that he probably wasn't aware that the club would demand quite so much, and for the reasons they were going to. Probably annoyed him that his terrible time at Old Trafford came back to haunt him because of the fee that they would get from it, that slice money off from Palace's point of view. Mm-hmm. They had to inflate Zaha's price. I think that came as a surprise. It means behind the scenes, the people running Zaha haven't been running him very well, because this should all have been known that this would be how it would pan out. It's almost like the guy's got too much modesty. Does he not realise how important he is to the club? They're not just going to let him go easily. So the transfer request late in the day is smacks of, I didn't realise it was going to be this way. So of course it could have been handled better.
If you compared, say, Wan-Bissaka now at Manchester United, the way that he left Crystal Palace, to the way the Zaha situation was dealt with, they're two very different things. Wan-Bissaka's left, and unquestionably he went with everybody at Crystal Palace's blessing of, OK, they accept that he has earned the right to go to Manchester United for a different challenge at this stage of his career. But Zaha is very different.
Well, the other difference is the much maligned Ed Woodward didn't mess about. You know, they paid the going rate for Wan-Bissaka, and the deal got done. Arsenal made an offer for Zaha, which was laughable, and then never went anywhere else with it, so that stays there, and Crystal Palace haven't got a decision to make. And as far as I understand it, this fantastic Everton offer that was meant to be arriving, any second now, that never materialised on transfer deadline day either. So I don't think, was it 56 million? And I don't think it ever went north of 56 million. Well, there's no way Crystal Palace can get anybody in, certainly at that late stage, that is going to do for them what Zaha has done for them for the last couple of seasons for 56 million. So you're not even giving Crystal Palace a decision to make. I don't think it's anything to do, in many ways, between the player and the club as such. It's simply that, bid something, one of your many suitors, if you bid something that actually gives us a decision to make, well then, we'll offer them 80 million. Offer them something that you're going, right, well,
decision to make.
Now we need to decide whether to accept this. 56, isn't it? Because
Man United got Fred for 56.
Well, absolutely. But you know what I mean? Crystal Palace could get relegated without Zaha.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Could get relegated.
Yeah.
So 56 million ain't gonna make you take that risk.
No.
OK. Any other moves that surprised you, or you thought anyway?
I thought
before we move on to Super Cup and
I thought the Andy Carroll one was interesting, but I thought I thought it was actually a very good move because it's only a year's contract and it's highly incentivised contract for him to be fit and to score goals. And he came free. And so I thought that was a good move. That was to get him back there because when he is fit and he is firing, he is an excellent player. It's just we haven't seen enough of it since he left Newcastle, basically, the first time. So he's come back and said he should never have left and all that sort of thing. And you cross your fingers it works for him. But he came back and the day he's announced he's out for a month. I don't know. Did he injure himself right in the side in the contract? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
But for such a big, strong lad, he seems to get an awful lot of injuries.
Yeah, he does get a lot of injuries. But Andy Carroll will eventually be back in a Newcastle shirt. I'd like to touch on the European Super Cup actually on Wednesday night, Ali, in Istanbul. It's Chelsea, of course, against Liverpool. I did mention this briefly last weekend. Stephanie Frappart, who takes charge. She refereed the Women's World Cup final. She'll referee this game. When I got the email, as I said last week, from UEFA, I actually didn't think anything of it. Is this a big call by UEFA? Is she ready for this? She is talking to the media on Tuesday in advance of the game, which I think is a good move by UEFA. How significant is this move for her to referee this game?
It's
as a referee yourself, of course.
Yeah. Well, I've refereed men's games and they're tough. She has better aura about it than I did. And refereeing is about having that sense of the players respect you because of your demeanour, the early decisions you make, the way you talk to them. I think she was the standout referee at the Women's World Cup. Absolutely has something about her. Just the way she indicates her body language, everything about her is spot on. And you really do need that as a referee. You need to look like you're not going to take any nonsense and you know exactly what you're talking about. And she's very fit. A lot of the reasons that we don't see women refereeing men's game is you've got to pass different fitness tests. And they're not, now they've changed the rules and you have fitness tests that are designed for women and for women's games. She looks fit. If she's fit enough to keep up with the men's game, there is absolutely no other reason why. That's the only reason you would not appoint a woman. Because to go through the system, it's hard being a referee, no matter who you are, but a woman in a man's world refereeing is tough. And if you want to do it, if you want to come through it, and you're fit enough, then you should do it.
Why is it tough? You refereed men's games, why is it tough?
Because they don't, very few men like to be told they've done something wrong by a girl. And you get it.
All the time
you get it all the time. What do you know you're a... You can imagine the abuse you get.
So the guys, they try to influence you because you're female more than they would if you were a male referee.
It's probably a different sort of abuse. It's probably a different sort of abuse.
So automatically the game is being handled or refereed differently based on that, because you're getting a whether it's abuse or trying to be coerced or influenced in a different way to whether that was, I don't know, Mike Dean, for example.
A lot of the female officials I've spoken to, they prefer refereeing in the women's game because it's just nicer.
More respectful.
We're all in it together. We all know it can be tough making it as a woman in the man's game, and that there is more respect. So if you put yourself forward as the first woman to referee the Super Cup, you've really got to want to do it, and I think she'll do brilliantly. She will. They wouldn't dare make that appointment unless they had 100% confidence in her ability to handle it.
Of course.
Awful lot of pressure, though, I think, isn't it?
Or that they think that everyone will be too scared if she does have a bad game or an ordinary game to say anything, because there has been absolutely no comment. She's refereed 2 matches in the French Elite League. That's you wouldn't get a European final on the back of 2 matches in the Elite League. That would be like giving it to Andy Madley. And I think
you think it's a gimmick?
I think you can't pretend that elite officiating at an elite level is not about elite experience. And I think that she's got fantastic experience in the women's game, and she was an excellent referee in the Women's World Cup, and it's nothing to do with gender. It's how can you make... There's only 3 European finals each year. How can you give one of the European finals to a referee that refereed 2 matches in League One last season, and that is the elite experience of the official in charge of the European Super Cup. The elite experience, not just experience, the elite experience in the men's game. So, if you watch the first test at Edgbaston, Joel Wilson is probably the least experienced official on the ICC's roster. Makes more mistakes in the first test at Edgbaston. I think he equals the record for the most mistakes ever made by an umpire. Because he's the least experienced. You know, why is the least experienced ICC umpire refereeing the first test at Edgbaston? And by the end, I mean, when Joe Root appealed on the last, there was when they sent it to review, you could see in Joe Root's face he didn't want to do it. He felt sorry for the guy because everyone knew by then 7 or 8 mistakes. I don't think she's going to make 7. You know, there's going to be no disaster. But even if it was a below par performance, I think where it's such a dramatic move by UEFA, everyone will be very intimidated in terms of saying, well, this was, the referee was terrible. You won't want to say it. You won't want to say it.
I suspect she wouldn't mind. And if you want half the population to realise that refereeing is a job, then do it.
Yeah. Let's see how she gets on Wednesday night. We look forward to it.
It's nothing about.
It's interesting in itself. Yeah, it's a bold move. It's a bold call.
It's about
by
experience.
UEFA. Let's see if it's a good call on Wednesday night for the Super Cup. That's Chelsea against Liverpool. Okay. Next up, we're going to talk Newcastle. They're playing Arsenal this afternoon. Welcome back. Our conversation about the dogs earlier on, your dogs in particular, the Cockapoo and Cockatoo. Montefiore has done wonders for our viewing figures.
Oh, has it?
It has, because people have been tweeting in pictures of themselves on their sofa with their dog watching alongside and watching Sunday Soccer. Tuning in just to see. I did ask, actually. I don't know if it's possible in the modern world.
I did say it would lift. If everyone tweeted photographs of their dogs, it would, you know.
Yeah, we've got a tailwind.
Sit them here.
Yeah.
Just like,
bring the Cockapoo in next time.
Next week, kittens.
Kittens.
Yeah, kittens.
next time I bring the little white one, it's better behaved. It'll just sit here with this little head there.
I think that would be a first as well. Let's talk Newcastle. You kind of forget what you're about to or want to talk about next. Let's talk Newcastle, Arsenal. Actually, I'm going to ask Neil because you'll still be crying into your milk about Rafa leaving, will you? You got over it? Yeah, you're still weeping.
Well, I'm not crying about Steve Bruce becoming the manager, and I'm a bit alarmed at the reaction they've got because, you know, the last time Steve Bruce was a manager in the North East, they finished 10 and 12th in Sunderland. Yeah. Right? Rafa Benitez finished 10 and 12th and he was lauded as a hero, and then they're building the statue. So now, you know, Rafa going is a massive blow, no doubt about that. But you have to get somebody else in. Now, the sort of, I don't know if anyone's actually looked into Steve Bruce's career and the sort of things he's done as a manager, because it has been fabulous, you know. I mean, he got Hull to an FA Cup final, for goodness sake, you know. The promotions he's got, the work he's done. He's a brilliant manager, and I think he is actually perfect for the position Newcastle are in right now, because I think he has the right outlook, he has the right attitude, he says the right things, he won't criticise. You know, he said the other day, you know, supposedly there's going to be some boycott today and 10,000 season tickets have been unsold. He won't have a go. He'll say, look, they're well within their rights. I'd prefer they came and supported us, but I don't understand, sort of thing. And, you know, he spent a bit of money. They've got, about 4 or 5 players in, and what have you. The problem still is if things don't work out, the anti-Ashley feeling will come through again, and it's, of course, it's understandable. You know, 11 years before Ashley, 10 times in Europe, since 1 time in Europe and 2 relegations. So that tells its own story. Crumbling ground, crumbling training ground, lack of investment in players. But they have this summer, and I think the fans that maybe do boycott will want to come back, because this is once they realise what Steve Bruce is all about, they'll realise this is a manager desperate to do well for Newcastle. I mean, even Alan Shearer told him not to take the job, and he ignored him, and he's one of his best mates. But it was a calling for him that he wanted, and you know, just have a look at his career and what he's done, and I think he's at the position Newcastle are in at the moment. I think he's a good choice. I'll get taters for that, but
yeah, I'm sure you will. Well, look, he got a good reception last weekend at St James's Park. They played a friendly last weekend, didn't they? Has Mike Ashley got dogs? You sat down with him a couple of weeks ago, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did he bring his dogs in? Has he got dogs? Did you ask him if he had dogs?
No, I didn't ask him.
No, funny that. You had more important issues to discuss, didn't you?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
How did you talk us? Tell us about the Mike Ashley that you sat in front of, Martin.
Well, the funny thing with him is that, and I said it in the piece, that you meet a lot of people in boardrooms and stuff like that. I haven't actually met too many directors of football clubs that talk more like a fan than Mike Ashley, because everyone thinks of him as this very hard-nosed businessman, which I don't think he is. Actually, I think he's a very impulsive businessman. And when he starts talking about, say, players, or when he starts talking about Steve Bruce, he gets very, very enthusiastic, like a fan gets very, very enthusiastic. Now, I realise I take everything that Neil's saying about underinvestment, and I've written about all of that sort of stuff over a number of years myself. But he's not the guy that you expect to meet, if you see what I mean. You expect to meet this very, very clinical sort of, and he's not. So when he's talking about Steve Bruce, he's greatly enthused by Steve Bruce. He's greatly enthused by Steve Bruce's enthusiasm for Newcastle, for the city, the way he talks about it, the way he suddenly talks about having a go at the FA Cup, and he's always admitting that he's made mistakes, Mike, as well. And so he said, the FA Cup, he said, we should go for the FA Cup. He said, so I said to Steve about the FA Cup, and he said, yeah, of course we'll go for it. He said he got hold to the FA Cup, and he's very sort of enthusiastic about it, which comes as quite a surprise, because you're expecting to find this very, very aloof guy that just sees everything in terms of pound, shillings and pence, which is clearly the way he's run Newcastle, which he's been trying to sell it for 10 years now.
Well, when he says he's trying to sell it, he's asking for too much money. I mean, he's still going to make a pretty penny out of it, even if he accepts a lower offer. But so how hard he's been trying, I don't know.
Well, you've got to have someone who's going to pay the money, first of all. I mean,
well, they did have someone, but they were offering asking for too much.
Peter Kenyon, the last time he was trying to, crowdfunding it. So he sent him a letter that he sends me saying, you're the guy next thing you see. He's trying to crowdfund it. So
that Staveley deal would have gone through if he'd sold at 300 million, and he wouldn't.
No, it was 200 million, wasn't it?
No, it was 300, and he wanted 350.
Yeah, but I mean,
the interesting thing.
When deals go through,
Martin,
when no one in the media ever hears about it. That's
Martin, let me just ask you. Let me ask you, because you're the guy who sat in front of him. Did you get any sense at all that anybody had come with provenance to say, okay, here you go, Mike. No. Here's the money. Here's 200 million pounds.
I didn't get the sense from him that anyone had ever come with any significant money. The day that Mike Ashley bought Newcastle, he didn't even do due diligence. I mean, famously didn't do due diligence, and he shares my opinion about takeover deals. The only ones that are actually going to happen are the ones that we get told about, not the ones that you read about in newspapers for weeks beforehand. When Sheikh Mansour bought Manchester City, no one had a clue until 9 o'clock that morning. Suddenly, Sheikh Mansour's bought Man City. Roman Abramovich, Chelsea. Subsequently, how many?
The Glazers one was quite drawn out, wasn't it?
Well, that was, but because that was a public company.
Yeah.
But Arsenal. How many times have there been some Middle Eastern consortium or this and that? And the minute you see it,
Chinese consortium.
Chinese consortiums. But the minute you see it, you're thinking
mystery Chinese consortium.
You're thinking
because there is a one.
Yeah, exactly. This is it. Because the minute you see it in the paper, you're thinking, yeah. OK, if there was a Chinese consortium that had the money to buy Arsenal, they'd just buy it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be haggling over 10 million quid or 20 million quid or even, as you say, 50 million quid. You wouldn't.
Are you sure it was 200 that they used?
I thought it was 200. But anyway, if the difference is 50 million, right, if you are the Sheikh of Araby, 50 million quid is not going to stop you buying anything.
No.
Yeah.
I mean that's the bottom line.
The point, the interesting.
Sorry, we're out of time. We'll come back to Newcastle at another point. Thanks for your company this morning. Thanks to Martin, to Alison, and to Neil. See you soon.